Red Bull has just made official the departure of Christian Horner from the team's management, and this information is causing a real shockwave in the world of Formula One. Has tolerance finally reached its limit? Or could this change trigger a chain reaction that will completely transform the landscape of the category for years to come? Because you can be sure, this situation is much more complex than it seems at first glance. Let's start with the basics. Christian Horner is no longer in charge of Red Bull Racing. The official announcement was made on Wednesday, stating that Laurent Mekies, who previously ran Racing Bulls, has immediately taken over as team principal and executive director. But here lies the key point that many people are failing to grasp. This change did not come out of the blue. In fact, it had been brewing for quite some time, and Johnny Herbert, a former driver and current commentator, had already warned that Red Bull was heading for a really difficult time. According to Herbert, this departure should come as no surprise to anyone. He recalled that when the first rumors began to spread, Ford Motor Company was very unhappy with the speculation circulating at the time. Horner managed to remain in his position for a considerable period, but it was something that simply wasn't going to go away. And when a problem of this nature doesn't disappear, it's never good to have that constant pressure hanging over your shoulders. But here the situation becomes fascinating. Did Max Verstappen influence this decision? Because, let's be realistic, Jos Verstappen, father of the four-time champion, was quite vocal about not wanting Christian Horner around. And now, with Toto Wolff confirming that he is in talks with Max for 2026, the pieces are starting to connect in a way that is worrying for Red Bull. The situation becomes even more complicated when you look at the bigger picture. In the last 2 years, Red Bull has lost key figures. Adrian Newey, the master of aerodynamics, Jonathan Wheatley, sporting director, and now Christian Horner. Herbert was categorical. The team is in a very delicate situation because, like any element in Formula One, you need to have the right components, including skilled people and clear leadership, and all of that has been gradually eroded, and the issue does not end there. Performance on the track is also not contributing positively. Over the course of the season, Red Bull is in 4th place in the Constructors' Championship, no less than 288 points behind McLaren, which leads the race. For a team that completely dominated the category not long ago, this represents a remarkable decline. Remember when Red Bull was winning race after race? It seems like it was just yesterday, but in fact it has been over a year since they have been able to maintain that devastating consistency. Herbert also touched on a sensitive issue. Max Verstappen is probably not happy. And as he himself mentioned, Jos is definitely not happy, but Max probably isn't either. Because Max is someone who always wants to be fighting for wins and championships, and that ability has been gradually lost over the last year and a half. A driver of his caliber will not accept remaining in 4th place in the Constructors' Championship without reacting. What is most striking is how this situation could accelerate Verstappen's transfer to Mercedes. Wolff has already publicly acknowledged that he is in talks with the Dutchman, which leaves the contracts of George Russell and Andrea Kimi Antonelli for 2026 completely undefined. Previously, Wolff had stated that he considered the likelihood of Verstappen joining the Brackley team for 2026 to be small, but he did not completely rule out the possibility for the future. And with all this confusion at Red Bull, the possibilities have only widened. Now, let's examine what this truly means for the future of Formula One. Red Bull built its era of supremacy on an ideal combination: Verstappen's extraordinary talent, Adrian Newey's technical genius, Christian Horner's strategic leadership, and Jonathan Wheatley's operational competence. Eliminating these pieces one by one is like dismantling a precision machine. It's like taking a winning Formula One car and starting to remove important components. First the engine, then the chassis, then the wheels. What's left in the end? Laurent Mekies, who is now taking over, has relevant experience, having served as sporting director at Ferrari before moving to Racing Bulls. But taking over a team in crisis, with its top driver possibly leaving and competition increasingly intense, is a huge challenge. The question remains, can Red Bull transform itself quickly enough to keep Verstappen and return to the title fight? Or has the damage already been done and it is now only a matter of time before everything collapses? On the other hand, if Max does move to Mercedes, it would create one of the most fascinating pairings in recent Formula One history. Russell has proven himself to be an extremely skilled and consistent driver, and his combination with Verstappen could be spectacular. But it would also mean that Red Bull would lose not only its biggest asset, but also the face of the brand in recent years. Imagine Mercedes with Lewis Hamilton leaving and Max Verstappen arriving. It would be an epic generational transition. The timing of this change is also significant. We are in the middle of a season where Red Bull is clearly no longer the dominant force it once was. McLaren, Ferrari, and Mercedes are all competing for wins on a regular basis, and Red Bull is struggling to keep up. Making a leadership change now could be either a desperate attempt to turn things around or an admission that the current strategy wasn't working. And that raises another question. Is it too late? There is also the issue of future regulations. Formula One undergoes constant technical changes, and having the right leadership and experience during these transitional moments is crucial. Losing someone like Horner, who has led the team through multiple regulatory eras, could be especially damaging in this context. He knew the ins and outs of Formula One politics like few others, and that institutional experience is impossible to replace overnight. But perhaps most worrying for Red Bull is the external perception. Formula One is as much about image as it is about performance, and a series of high-profile departures could signal instability to sponsors, partners, and even other talent the team may want to sign in the future. Who will want to work for a team that appears to be in decline? More importantly, how does this affect the commercial value of the Red Bull brand in motorsport? The reality is that we are potentially witnessing the end of an era in Formula One. The Red Bull of recent years, which has dominated the category almost completely, may be coming to an end. And if Verstappen does leave, it wouldn't just be a change of driver, it would be the definitive end of a cycle. It would be like the end of the golden age of Ferrari with Michael Schumacher or McLaren with Ayrton Senna, pure history being written right in front of us. What do you think? Can Red Bull recover from all this turmoil, or are we seeing the beginning of a new chapter in Formula One where other teams will dominate while Red Bull tries to rebuild? More importantly, do you think Max Verstappen should really leave Red Bull now, or should he stay and try to help the team get back to the top? Leave your opinion in the comments because this discussion is far from over. And click on the video appearing on your screen, because there I'll tell you how Verstappen's possible move to Mercedes could create the biggest internal rivalry Formula One has seen in recent years.